All right, so we are back, and today's video is a look at the worst excuse I've ever heard for a loss in combat sports, and it's brought to us by the one, the only problem child, Jake Paul. He was on Impulsive a couple days ago, and among other things, he talked about the Tommy Fury loss, talked about KSI, and we're going to get into all that and some other things that happened to Jake Paul this week, but the main juice, the worst word I could have used for this video, but main squeeze for this video is that Jake Paul blames a wet dream, among other things that sound a lot like excuses, for his loss to Tommy Fury. And I want to know, in the mind of Jake Paul, how well he's actually handling this. Like, jokes aside, is he handling this well? And is that any indication for the rematch? Jake Paul on Impulsive talking about wet dreams and shaky legs, and KSI smoking on his Jake Paul pack, and some other things that happened to Jake this week that I thought were just absolute buffoonery. You already know what we do, the breakdown of Jake Paul's wild, wet, and weird week. The breakdown, let's go.
I mean, let's address the elephant in the room. You just beat Tommy Fury.
Yeah, 7-0.
Okay, the denial starts quick. But no, for the kids at home that didn't watch the fight or watched it in nefarious means and ended up getting a bootleg version, Jake did not beat Tommy Fury.
Brother to brother, I know we've been talking and going through, but how you feeling?
About
Yeah,
what?
Man, you got your ass kicked. Bro.
About what?
Whoa.
About what?
Dude, Tommy fucked you up, bro.
So they're all starting this podcast laughy and jokey, and everybody's kind of making jokes at Jake's expense. He's like, what? I didn't lose. George comes out and takes the joke just a little too far for the room when he's like, yeah, Tommy beat your ass. He says it again. And the first time, everyone laughs. The second time, no one does. In fact, Jake gives him the stare of death. Watch this again.
Dude, Tommy fucked you up, bro.
This is a gift from the universe, but if we're talking about in terms of life and my, personal growth as a human being, then this is a gift from the universe. This is a win because I want to be happy and love myself and have, eternal confidence regardless of any situation. And this...
Listen, I get whatever Jake's saying here is important to him, and I think where he's going with this is he doesn't need boxing to be happy, but he lost. That happened. He may not feel like it's a loss, and that's great that he's able to handle a loss in a way that doesn't make it feel like he actually lost. Like, of course, they did a ton of money. From what I'm hearing, it was close to 800,000 pay-per-views, and that's a number that does include other countries, not just the U.S., but still, that's a massive number. But I do want to see some acceptance from Jake that he did lose. Not even that just he lost, but that Tommy beat him. Because one of the first things that is learning to grow, especially in this sport, is accepting that something went wrong. Like, something didn't go your way in the ring, not the other stuff we're going to talk about in a second, but there was also a reason that thing didn't go wrong, and that was the other guy standing across from you. I do want to hear that from Jake here, because delusion is great for the sport of boxing, for really any sport, and it can lead you back to the promised land. If you think that was just not my night, I'm going to get it back, it wasn't my best performance, that can lead you back. But you do have to acknowledge, at least on some level, that the other guy did something right to put you in that position. I do want to hear that from Jake.
I was not good. I was not on my A game. I didn't implement the game plan. My legs were weak going into the fight. I think I cut the weight improperly in such like a 7-week camp. Normally we do like 12-week camps because I'm behind the 8 ball. I got to catch up to these guys. I got to be extra sharp. We squeezed in this camp. I mean, bro, I don't even want to sit here and make excuses. Like, I just...
You can't say that, Jake, after you make 4 excuses. You can't say, I don't want to make excuses, right after you make some. All right, well, let's go over these. He said, I didn't follow the game plan. My legs were weak. I didn't come in switched on, and I cut the weight improperly. I get that all those can be contributing factors as to why Jake lost. I understand that. And he's right that cutting the weight properly is going to leave your body in a very shocked state. He's right about that. But also, you can't say these things after a loss, because it doesn't matter. It does not matter how much weight he cut, what he was feeling like on the day, his legs being weak. No one goes into a fight 100%. If you ask Tommy how he went into the fight, was he 100% ready to go? Was there not any bumps and bruises? No one goes in 100%. So whatever percentage you are on fight night is how you have to operate. That is the fight game. That's how this thing goes. He can be right. These can be true, but you can't come out and say these things, because now it looks like you don't know how to handle that loss.
And I watched that fight and I downloaded it and digested it. When I thought to myself what had just happened, it looked to me like you were a fighter
Tommy was boxing.
And Tommy Fury was a little bit of a better boxer.
Damn, Mike's actually got a good take here. Yeah, I agree. Listen, Jake is a fighter. I've been saying this for a while now. He's an athlete learning to box, but in the process, he's an athlete that knows how to fight. And when things go badly, he will revert back to the fundamentals of what he knows, and that is to fight. Whereas Tommy is a fundamental boxer. This was what played out on fight night. Jake was fighting, Tommy was boxing.
Are you as good of a boxer as Tommy Fury is?
Yeah, 100%. I beat him, I believe, like 8 to 9 times out of 10.
See, my question for Jake there would be why? Why do you beat him 8 or 9 times out of 10? Because if he can explain that, then we can get on board with something that maybe we missed in the fight. But if you look at the fight, if you watch the fight, the better boxer was Tommy Fury.
He came up to me afterwards, too, when we were in the medical offices. He's like, bro, you did great. I've been doing this since I was 6. And when I think about it, I'm like, damn, like, what have you been doing for all those years? Because you're not that good. Like, I've been doing this for 3 years.
Man. Look at George and Mike, right? They look at this as a joke. Jake's being dead serious. Like, he genuinely thinks Tommy's not that good. Again, Jake can think that. It may even be true that Jake just had his worst night possible and Tommy had his best. But saying it after he beat you, and again, they're going to talk about it being a controversial decision. I didn't think it was. I thought that Tommy beat him pretty handily. So to say he's not very good, again, it's just an indicator as to where Jake is right now. If Tommy's not very good and he did that, where is Jake?
What about his approach like surprised you and made you maybe respect him a little bit more?
Just his combinations, honestly. That was like the best thing.
Yeah,
is
he lets his hands go.
His hand speed, yeah. And his number
quick.
his number of punches was his best attribute for sure. That's what was winning the close rounds for him.
Yep.
Was that he was putting combinations together better.
That's all I needed. Yes, that's acceptance right there, because that's absolutely what happened. Now, Jake can look at that and say, well, next time that won't happen, but he has to have a why. He has to, okay, if that's not going to happen, why? What are you going to do differently to not let that happen?
It's gonna be all good.
That's
Get
true.
that
That's
done,
true.
bro.
It's gonna be.
Do you
good.
think your wet dream played a part of it at all?
bro? I don't.
Okay. Look at George's face. I guess we're going to get into this now. Jake is going to now make the case that a wet dream played a part in him losing his fight to Tommy Fury. And it may have, but not for the reasons you think. I'm going to explain, but George's face kills me. He's like, what did you just say?
I do want to talk about it because I know you didn't want to, but Mom said, she said Jake had a wet dream the night before his fight. I sparked up and I said, no fucking way. I had a wet dream the day of the KSI fight.
What?
I know you had been, in boxing terms, what they call building your batch.
Yep.
So essentially what you do is you don't release in order to build up that testosterone in your body to make you just like some angry fucking fired
And I
up.
fucked myself, literally.
This whole idea of building your batch and raising your testosterone for a fight and not, sorry kids, cover your ears for this part, not masturbating or having sex before a fight. There's no science behind it. Like what they're essentially saying is, oh, well, if you don't do this, your testosterone will go up. And that is true, but not to a level that makes you Vitor Belfort sauce daddy. Like you're not going like over 1,000 on your testosterone numbers. Like that's not happening just because you don't jerk off. This is something that boxing old heads talk about as some sort of wives' tale to get their fighters to stay focused in camp. That's not happening. And again, Logan and Jake thinking that it is more of the problem.
No, because I literally woke up in a panic. Like,
Where was the nut?
Worst thing ever.
That is 100% the reason why this is all causing Jake an issue. It has nothing to do with him creaming his pants at night. It doesn't have anything to do with that. What it does have to do with is the psychological effect, because he looks at this as a key integral part of what he's doing in camp to prepare for a fight. Building my batch, not being tempted by women, sex, porn, whatever it is. And the fact that it does happen in a dream and he can't control it, psychologically is messing with Jake. And that psychologically is telling him, oh no, this could have an effect on the fight. This could make me worse. Then in turn, mentally creating physical aberrations of that. Just like performance anxiety for anything. It's a psychological manifestation. It's not anything to do with his actual busting of nuts.
But
but yeah, it makes your legs weak. I guess
Totally.
the viewers like that's why it's bad, is it makes your legs weak.
Oh,
Why does it make
Like-
your legs weak?
after
Because that the sperm is like stored in your legs and it has something to do.
Jake, what are you talking about? There's no way he actually thinks this. Human Anatomy 101. There is no sperm cells stored in your legs. There is no amount of sperm in your legs. When you do a leg workout, you're not building your sperm batch. That's not what's happening. Your sperm is stored in your balls and your testicles. And there's spermatic cords that run from your stomach under what's called your transverse abdominals, and those run up into your prostate gland. And in that prostate gland is where semen or your stuff flows through. That's where the liquid comes from. So no, it's not in any way formed in your legs. Jake, what the fuck are you talking about?
I remember when it happened to me. Mentally, I was kind of destroyed.
There it is. Logan's the closest to getting this answer correct. That's actually what happened. The mental side goes, because again, you've implanted this in your head. Should have said implanted. You've said this to yourself that this is what's supposed to happen, so it physically does happen. It manifests.
Could you take like a Viagra or a Blue Chew? Does that help in any type of way?
No.
What is
definitely
wrong?
not.
What?
Dude.
Oh, what is wrong with me?
This is what happens. When you start a discussion with complete nonsense, you breed even further complete nonsense. All right, so now that that's out of the way, let's talk about this KSI fight. And what Jake is looking at is you want to do this KSI fight first, the rematch with Tommy. Let's take a look.
You walked out of that ring after a tough loss, and within seconds, there was a viral video from a man named KSI just digging fucking in. I can quote him. He was smoking on that Jake Paul pack.
Why did Mike say it like that, bro?
I don't know. I didn't see the videos. Again, talk is cheap, because with all that talk of whatever he said, he's still afraid to sign the contract.
So here's the thing with this Jake and KSI fight. I had been told that this thing was being fast-tracked all the way back in February, that we were close to it being a done deal, but there was just a couple things to iron out in this contract. I have no idea what's still being ironed out as far as maybe the weight or percentages. I don't know, because we know the fighter purse is supposed to be winner take all. Mams has said it, KSI said it, Jake has said it, but as far as the pay-per-view rev share, maybe that's the biggest thing they're having an issue with. I don't know. That's me assuming things. I have no idea, but it does feel like this fight is further away, oddly enough, now than it was even back in February.
And this is the thing, when I make my pound for pound list, they're like, why does Jake put Logan above KSI? KSI beat him. If you guys fought now, you would win. You're a different fighter than back then.
Would Logan beat KSI right now? The measurables aren't the same. KSI is not anywhere close to that weight anymore, and I don't know if he wants to go back. KSI has gotten better. Logan, I have no idea, really. Yeah, he showed a better understanding of the clinch game, and he had a decent jab, and he was fast in the Floyd Mayweather fight. One right hand came over the top, but has he developed to a point that is astronomically better than KSI? I don't know. I would say his size, his speed, his reaction time, all the things that should have given KSI problems the first and second time would be a problem if he ever implemented it. So yeah, I'd like to see the third fight. We'll never get it, but I'd like to see it.
I love you, and watching your growth is fucking inspirational. But I have also come to and always have very much respect to JJ, and do like JJ very much as well. So the idea of it, I probably sit somewhere around the same place as him on it. But that's the super fight. That's the fight, dude. I'm sorry. Like, there is
not as big of a fight as you think.
Listen, Mike's right that this fight is going to split some relationships. I don't know really if that's going to be from the KSI side of things, but the buildup is going to split people. It's absolutely going to be Team Jake, Team KSI, and guys like Logan and Mike, and even some of the sidemen, which I don't think they would be Team Jake, but they're going to have to stop that communication with Jake's team, including Logan and Mike. And Logan and Mike themselves are going to have to stop the communication with KSI side, and it's going to split those things up, and people are going to get divided. So that is another intriguing part of the build-up to Jake and KSI. But Jake saying that the fight isn't as big as we think is very interesting, and I think I know why he said it, but I want to hear more.
I disagree. For what reason? Do you think it loses
We
the
both
mainstream? Is it a mainstream?
Yeah, we both. I mean, I have a mainstream audience,
Yep.
and so does the Fury name. So that's why superstars were there, Ronaldo, all this shit. No one really knows. Like, celebrities don't care about KSI. He
But-
has like all the little like internet kids wrapped around his finger, but that's also all the kids who still watch me fight because they hate me. So it's like we have a lot of the same crossover audience, and it doesn't engage like the professional boxing combat sports world nearly as much as me versus Tommy.
That's an interesting point. Jake and KSI do have overlap in their audience, not necessarily as far as the videos that'll watch. Like, yes, KSI gets crazy views on his videos, but what Jake does, KSI's fans are watching because those same people want to get to the end of the story. Jake is a part of the end of the story. So the YouTube scene, whatever people are going to be watching YouTube boxing, They watch Jake and they watch KSI. More people in the YouTube space, in my opinion, aren't watching KSI specifically and going, no, I'm not watching Jake. They may not pay to watch Jake, and that's another conversation because Jake's pay-per-view numbers are more expensive. But what Jake is saying is he also brings a mainstream combat sports audience, and so does the Fury name. So that is a little bit more interesting. Like now that Jake has crossed over into the mainstream, those people are more active in their buy rates. They do buy boxing fights, and they will buy a Jake Paul fight as long as they care about the other individual Jake is fighting. And what Jake's saying is they don't care about KSI.
KSI has only sold 200,000 pay-per-views max.
Here's
I don't think that's accurate. Is he talking about U.S. pay-per-views? Like, because yes, the U.S. pay-per-view is the market that matters, but as far as total pay-per-views, I don't know if that's accurate at all.
You guys sold 240,000.
No, we did 1.1
That's a lie.
at $10.
Oh, the first fight with like me and Deji and all them.
Yes.
Yeah, which is $10
The
million
second one, the second one was between
on DAZN. Yeah.
I don't think it was 2. I thought it was more like 300 to 400,000.
That's a low number for what I thought they did the second time around with the zone. That's interesting.
200,000 subscribers who had already paid for DAZN that watched it, or 400,000 that watched it, but they already had paid for DAZN, and then you added 220,000 new subscribers at $20, which is only,
That's interesting, though, how much he keeps an eye on those numbers. And if he's telling the truth here, that there was 400,000 people that watched Logan and KSI, but what they brought in was an extra 220,000 people to that number, that is not as impressive as I thought their numbers would be. And again, that was 3 years ago, and all three, Jake, Logan, and KSI, have grown exponentially since then, but I did think those numbers were bigger then, and now I'm starting to question, how many pay-per-views does Jake and KSI actually do? All right, so there was Jake Paul on Impulsive. Now, that wasn't the only thing that he did this week. Yeah, he talked about him busting nuts in his sleep. He talked about KSI not being a draw, and that fight maybe not being as close as we thought to happening, but one of the most interesting things that happened to Jake this week is he almost got jumped by Floyd Mayweather. And I'm going to play the video in certain parts on this screen, but what exactly happened, we're still not sure about. So essentially, Jake and Floyd were both in Miami for the Heat game a couple nights ago, and I guess in the parking lot somewhere. And again, this is from a source that was close to the situation on my end. A Sprinter van rolled up on Jake, and dudes jumped out, maybe 5, maybe 10, and were basically looking to get at Jake and jump him, essentially, like fight him in the street, while Jake was, I guess, there with 1, maybe 2 security guards. And these guys weren't acting as individuals, as all orchestrated, you'd have to think, by the head honcho that does walk around with 10 to 15 people at a time, and that is Floyd Mayweather. And then later on in the exchange comes a video of a couple things. One, Jake walking on what looks like a sidewalk, and one of Floyd's team reaching out and trying to snatch him, as Jake, again, has the wherewithal and the reaction time to get the fuck out of there. Fair play to him for understanding the situation and leaving. And then another one where there's a guy holding the video and filming Jake's security guard and him, saying something along the lines of, hey guys, we're gonna bust him up now, let's bust him up, guys. Obviously meaning let's just talk and hug it out, guys. This is not anything physical at all. No, of course not. Floyd and his team there to jump Jake. Again, I think I said something on Twitter like, what does this prove? Like, what does it prove for a guy like Floyd and 15 dudes, 10 of them built like offensive fucking linemen in the NFL, to run up on Jake and his security guard and do what? And beat him up? What does that solve? What are they even trying to get out of Jake? What are they even mad about? Is it the gotcha hat thing? Because if I remember correctly, Jake already paid his penance for that. Floyd him up in the stadium, then chased him around the stadium trying to him up. So you already got your get back there. But of course, it's not enough. You got to go intimidate and make sure that Jake knows he's not welcome in your Miami streets, I guess. I saw people on Twitter saying, oh, Jake should just not run his mouth if you don't want to have to pay for it. The stupidest take on Twitter is that one. Because if you're encouraging Floyd and his crew to jump and assault everyone that criticizes him, you're the problem. I 100% agree that Jake should not have put himself in that situation with 1 security guard. So no, he shouldn't have been there alone. But to be on the side that okays Floyd and his crew trying to assault Jake because Jake's saying some things that Floyd didn't like is a terrible look. And so was this for Floyd. It was cowardice. It was complete buffoonery. It could have been Floyd. If this happened to Floyd, I'd be saying the same thing. If someone ran up on Floyd, he was by himself, which he never is, but if he was by himself and this happened to him, I would be saying the same thing. It doesn't make you tough. It doesn't make Jake a bitch or a pussy that he ran away. It makes him a smart individual, and every single one of you would have done the same exact thing. But that's where we leave it. That is Jake Paul's water park wild, wet, and weird week. Like I said earlier, you guys let me know down below a couple of things. Is Jake handling this loss to Tommy correctly? I tend to think there's a lot of processing that still needs to go on here, and some acceptance that needs to happen before he goes into that rematch. Is the KSI fight the draw that we really think it is? Because maybe it's not necessarily what KSI brings to the table, but maybe what both of them don't have, and that's the mainstream pull that you would need. And lastly, let me know, was Floyd in the right or wrong here? In my opinion, he's flat wrong. All it looks like is a bunch of goofballs trying to run up on a guy that they couldn't handle one-on-one. So what happens next for Jake, for KSI, for Floyd? Are we going to get our wet dream, which is the KSI? I can't do it. I don't know what's next for any of those guys, but I guess we'll find out.